The anime begins in Japan, with an orphan boy named Kazuya, who was on his way to a convenience store to get a meal for himself when he saw a thug about to attack two girls. Without hesitation, he jumped in to save them, and in the process, he got stabbed by the thug and died. At least, before his final breath, he was happy knowing he saved the two girls behind him. With that, he opened his eyes in a whole new world as a 3-year-old boy named Kane. Naturally, Kane freaked out upon seeing himself as a completely different person, but his mother, Sylvia, thought it was a normal reaction since Kane had been unconscious for a week. That was why she and others left to bring some soup for him. Left alone for a moment, Kane was able to piece together the situation, that he had been reincarnated after saving those girls. While checking himself out in disbelief, Sylvia returned and, misinterpreting the situation, thought Kane needed a nappy change. After that, he got many answers from Sylvia. He learned that he was the son of Graham and Sarah, and had a 2-year-old sister named Rain. Sarah was Graham's second wife, and from his first wife, Graham had 2 sons, making Kane the 3rd son of a high-ranking noble. Graham was a margrave who oversaw the southern part of the kingdom and defended it against monsters with the help of adventurers. Kane grew excited upon hearing about magic and such things, but he was still too young to try it out. Showing his eagerness to study, Kane asked for books about magic, but his request was denied because a person must be baptized at the age of 5 before they can use magic. Despite that, Kane had already secretly learned a basic spell. He then began studying the kingdom's history and learned how it was founded by the first king named Yaa, who had a Japanese name, and that all sorts of fantasy beings existed in this world. 2 years passed quickly, and the time came for Kane to go to the church to be baptized. After baptism, everyone received a status window, and Rain demonstrated how hers looked. Kane noticed a certain title in Rain's status, but she quickly hid it. Soon after, they arrived at the church for blessings, and just as Kane knelt, all the statues in the church began to shine. In the blink of an eye, Kane found himself in front of all 7 gods. The god of reincarnation told him bluntly that it hadn't been necessary for him to stop that thug back in Japan. The thug would have been subdued by others, so Kane's death had been meaningless. Still, because it was a good deed, the god of Earth had asked for Kane to be reincarnated in this world. Kane admitted that he liked his new life with his family, and, hearing this, all the gods, one by one, granted him their blessings. After the ceremony, Graham wanted to check Kane's status, but Kane quickly lied that he had a stomachache and ran off to see it privately. He discovered that his level was far beyond normal. Where level 5 was considered the highest, he was already at level 10. Not only that, but he had the blessings of all 7 gods and the title, God's Chosen. Thankfully, the god of creation had given him a camouflage skill to hide all his titles, but he forgot to hide his magic power, item box, and judgment skill, each of which was also overpowered. When Graham eventually found out, he told Sylvia and the butler to never speak of this to anyone else. That same day, Kane noticed a summoning book in his room and decided to try it. He successfully summoned a monster in the backyard, but Rain and Parma got caught up in the situation. Kane jumped in and saved them from the monster, taking some damage, not too serious, and then asked Rain to keep it a secret from their parents. Time passed, and when Kane turned 5, he decided to become an adventurer. Graham arranged for tutors to train him, and in his excitement to meet them, Kane jumped out the window and landed on one of his teachers. She thought he needed nursing, but it was just a misunderstanding. The 2 tutors, Millie and Na, were D-rank adventurers who took Kane to the training grounds, where they were shocked by his swordsmanship skills. Millie challenged Kane herself, but quickly grew tired. Then Kane showed them his magic power, which shocked them even more. Na and Millie were confused because this little boy had blessings from both the god of magic and the god of swordsmanship, plus an item box. Unsure of what they could possibly teach him, they asked Graham for permission to take him outside the mansion so he wouldn't accidentally destroy it. Once at a safe distance, Kane unleashed his mini fire spell, which turned out to be anything but mini, leaving the girls speechless. They assumed he'd be exhausted after casting such a large spell, but Kane still had enough MP to cast more. Suddenly, a fanged rabbit attacked them, and Cain killed it with wind bullets. It was his first kill, so he excitedly showed it to his family. Later, Nina used a search spell to locate more monsters, and Cain managed to copy the spell just by watching her cast it. Together, they killed more monsters, but when Cain tried to follow one deeper into the forest, Millie stopped him, warning that the place was filled with strong monsters and that monster outbreaks occurred every few decades. The next day, Cain went to the Adventurers Guild with Millie and Na to learn more about monsters. There, he met a cute dog-girl receptionist who found him adorable. Unfortunately, some goons arrived and began harassing Na and Millie. Cain stepped in, beat them up, and threw them out. Na was relieved that nothing had happened to him. As time passed, Millie and Na's contract to train Cain was nearing its end. As a parting gift, Cain hunted down a dragon and an ogre to create a magic bag for them. However, a soldier saw the massive destruction and assumed a monster outbreak was happening, warning the whole town. Troops followed Graham to investigate, but when he arrived at the scene, he found a handkerchief with his household emblem. On the last day of training, Cain presented Millie and Na with the magic bag they'd always wanted, capable of fitting an entire mansion, making it a national treasure. Cain even installed a security system so that only the three of them could use it, making it even more precious. Millie and Na were thrilled to receive it, and with that, they parted ways. Later that day, Graham discovered that Cain had been responsible for the forest's destruction and scolded him for a good hour and a half. Still, Cain continued adventuring and even managed to hunt down a red dragon. When he turned 10, it was time for him to travel to the royal capital for his debut in noble society. On the way, through search magic, he detected a large group of monsters attacking people. Graham sent his men ahead, but Cain arrived first and saw at least 50 monsters killing knights. He saved them all, though the knights were initially wary of him. Cain introduced himself as Graham's son, and Graham's knights confirmed his identity. Cain healed the surviving knights and stored the bodies of the fallen. When Graham arrived, he saw that the attacked carriage bore the emblem of Duke Santana. Inside were the Duke's daughter, Miss Silk, and the King's daughter, Princess Tellis, both beautiful and visibly shaken. Cain used a relaxing spell to calm them, and impressed by his bravery, both girls began fawning over him, competing for his attention. Coincidentally, both were also heading to their debut and insisted that Cain ride with them. Sitting close to him, they wouldn't allow him to sit anywhere else and even asked him to call them by their first names, refusing to take no for an answer. They stopped at an inn for the night, but Silk and Tellis didn't want to be separated from Cain. Graham tried to explain that it was inappropriate for a boy to stay with two girls, but they insisted they were still frightened after the earlier attack. Reluctantly, Cain agreed to stay with them. Both girls joined their bed with his, so they could sleep side by side, which, while a good situation for a newcomer like Cain, made him too anxious to sleep. He stayed awake all night while they cuddled him. The next day, they arrived safely in the capital, but the girls still didn't want to be separated from Cain. In front of the vice-captain of the Royal Knights, Diam von Gazard, Cain was formally thanked for saving Silk and Tellis and for returning the bodies of the fallen knights. Just as he was about to leave, Diam stopped him. He still had to meet the king. At the royal court, the king learned how Cain had defeated 50 orcs to save Silk and Tellis, and had brought back the bodies of the knights. In recognition of his bravery, the king granted him the title of Baron, 10 platinum coins, and his own mansion. Naturally, some objected to giving a 10-year-old such a title, but the king silenced them. Afterward, the king called Cain and Graham to the parlor for a private talk. Duke Eric once again thanked Cain for saving Silk and Tellis. Then, both fathers made an unexpected proposal. They offered their daughters' hands in marriage to Cain. Surprised, Cain was reminded by the king that if word got out Silk and Tellis had slept in the same bed with him, no one would want to marry them, so they wanted Cain to take responsibility. With no way out, Cain accepted the engagement to both Silk and Tellis. The girls were overjoyed and began reminiscing about what had happened that night. Until then, take care.
He is kicked out of the heroes party for being useless, but it turns out he has SSS ranked skills in everything. Aside from fighting, Kurt is a 15-year-old boy from a village hidden deep within the mountains, a place so remote that no one has ever heard of it. Ever since he was a child, he dreamed of becoming an adventurer. With hope in his heart, he traveled to the city and managed to join an S-rank adventurer party, though only as their errand boy. While the other members of the party fought powerful monsters, Kurt would get knocked out before the battle even began. Despite this, he took great pride in being part of a party hailed as heroes by the world. That pride shattered one day when the party members told him he was fired. Kurt was aghast at the shocking news and asked what he had done wrong. The party leader coldly told him that he hadn't done anything at all. And that was precisely the problem. According to the laws of the world, a party could only have 4 members, and they needed to make room for a high-ranking mage who could actually contribute. Kurt pleaded with the leader to let him stay, only to be kicked in the stomach and knocked out. When he regained consciousness, he realized he was living the cliché story of the loser who gets thrown out of the hero's party. Luckily, Kurt didn't spend time whining about it. He immediately headed to the next city and visited a temp agency to look for a job. As soon as he entered the building, he was greeted by an overly excited receptionist who jumped straight into interviewing him for employment. She was surprised to learn that he had just been fired from the party that had recently been promoted to SS rank. Kurt became depressed while talking about it, but the receptionist quickly tried to cheer him up, saying it would actually look great on his resume. She then took him for an aptitude test to check for any hidden skills, but all his combat-oriented scores came back as garbage. This disheartened Kurt even more. The receptionist informed him that the specialist who could test his non-combat skills would return next week. Kurt meekly admitted that he was flat broke. Feeling sympathetic, the receptionist decided to give him another chance and asked him to lift a sandbag lying in the corner. As Kurt picked it up, he felt it sucking in his mana and becoming incredibly heavy, prompting the receptionist to urgently tell him to drop it. Seeing that he had basic strength and fitness, she suggested he try construction work to earn some money, and Kurt gratefully accepted. At the construction site, a grumpy man glanced at Kurt's resume and then skeptically at his thin, twink-like body, before reluctantly agreeing to hire him due to severe understaffing. He told Kurt that his task was to mix cement and repair the city walls, warning him that if he couldn't use up half a barrel of cement in 3 hours, he would be fired. Without waiting for questions, the man left. Remembering how things were done in his village, Kurt decided to enhance the cement with magic to make it stronger. 3 hours later, when the grumpy foreman returned, he was stunned to see that Kurt had already plastered 30% of the wall and used up all the cement. He couldn't believe a noob had accomplished so much in so little time. Mistaking the shock for anger, Kurt immediately apologized, but the man told him to keep working as long as he wanted. He even handed over his entire purse to Kurt and promised to send the remaining payment to the temp agency within 3 days. Kurt went on to single-handedly plaster half the city wall, causing panic among the other workers. Noticing the chaos, the foreman approached Kurt and told him not to come back the next day, not because he was being fired, but because there wouldn't be any work left for others who needed the money more. He handed Kurt the rest of his payment and advised him to find work that matched his abilities in the royal capital. Full of self-doubt, Kurt assumed the man was just trying to get rid of him. He returned to the temp agency and sadly informed the receptionist that he had lost his job. At that moment, a tanned beauty could be heard arguing with another receptionist about a job offer. Kurt's receptionist went over to speak with the girl, named Ulia, who was looking for a miner to explore a mountain, but would only pay if something valuable was found. The receptionists told Ulia her offer wasn't reasonable, but Kurt, desperate, asked her to hire him since he had mining experience from his village. The receptionist warned him that there was a good chance he wouldn't get paid, and even Ulia commented that she had been looking for a strong dwarf, not a twink. However, since she had no money to hire a dwarf, she agreed to take Kurt along. As they left, the receptionist began fantasizing about hiring Kurt as her submissive boy toy, when suddenly her colleague informed her that the construction boss had sent Kurt's remaining payment. When she saw the check, 200 gold coins, she was flabbergasted and tripped over the sandbags. Her colleague helped her up and explained that the sandbags were special devices used to measure magical capacity and could only be activated by those on the level of royal mages. When she tried moving them again, they didn't react at all, making her wonder just how powerful Kurt really was. Meanwhile, Ulia took Kurt to her base on the mountain and informed him that they would be sleeping in the same tent that night. Kurt became flustered, worried he wouldn't be able to control himself around such a cute girl. Ulia lost her cool when she heard him call her cute, as he was the first guy to ever say that to her. After teasing him for trying to butter her up, she gave him dinner, a single boiled potato. To Kurt, it was delicious, as it had been a long time since someone else had cooked for him. That night, as they slept in the same tent, Kurt felt his sword rising when he saw Ulia sleeping defenselessly. Being a gentleman and a bit of a wuss, he went outside to rub one out and ended up falling asleep there. Unbeknownst to him, Ulia had been testing him to see if he was better than a bear. His gentlemanly behavior and cute looks stirred something in her. The next morning, Ulia found Kurt sleeping outside and noticed that he had repaired her coat during the night. As she admired his skills, Kurt woke up and Ulia got straight to business. She explained that they needed to earn 10 gold coins by the end of the week, but she had no idea how to find anything valuable in the mountain. Fortunately, Kurt did. Using his knowledge, he quickly located a rock containing crystals worth 3 gold coins, leaving Ulia in disbelief. In just a couple of hours, Kurt gathered a large number of crystals, but he explained that they wouldn't sell for much due to their small size. He then decided to turn them into magic crystals. Ulia was shocked, as craftsmen capable of doing that were incredibly rare. Before she could protest, Kurt had already finished crafting one. She was further stunned when she learned that it typically took an hour to create even a small magic crystal. Kurt, however, wondered how masters could use magic for an hour without getting tired. Ulia decided to head to the city to sell the crystals, while Kurt stayed behind to explore the mountain further. At the night station, she showed the crystals to the guards, and, when asked for documentation, presented a pendant. The knights were shocked, recognizing it as proof she worked directly for the royal family. They immediately allowed her to use the teleportation device to travel to the royal capital, unaware that she no longer held that position. In the capital, Ulia visited her friend Mimiko to sell the crystals. At first, Mimiko claimed they weren't worth much since they weren't glowing, but after examining them closely, she offered 10 gold coins for one. Ulia was stunned. Mimiko explained that the crystals contained 10 times more mana than usual and didn't glow because they weren't leaking any. When Ulia revealed she had 49 more, Mimiko bought them all immediately. After the deal, Mimiko asked about the creator of the crystals. Ulia refused to reveal Kurt's identity without his permission, even when Mimiko, the royal court mage, tried to command her. In the end, Mimiko asked her to ensure the craftsman didn't leave the country and to inform him that he could receive a noble rank and a position as a court mage if he agreed to serve the kingdom. Ulia returned to the city the next morning and rushed to the temp agency to ask about Kurt. Although the receptionist tried to protect his identity, Ulia used her royal pass to access his file and was stunned by everything he had already accomplished. She ordered the receptionist to never share Kurt's information with anyone, deposited the full proceeds from the crystal sales into Kurt's account, and returned to the mountain. To her utter shock, Ulia found that Kurt had built an entire house from scratch within a single day. Even more baffling was that Kurt didn't think it was a big deal, since people in his village did things like that all the time. Inside the cottage, Ulia informed Kurt that he had been offered the position of director of the Royal Magic Technology Research Lab, along with a noble title, all because of the magic crystals he had created. Kurt was stunned, but when Ulia asked for his decision, he humbly refused. He admitted that he didn't see himself as someone worthy of commanding others, and that he was enjoying life as a freelancer. Feeling slightly self-conscious, Ulia admitted she had made a large amount of money selling the crystals, but since she had contributed nothing, she only took 1 gold coin as commission and deposited the rest in his account. She then asked Kurt to work with her again so she could properly earn a commission selling his crystals. Excited, Kurt told her he had found another good mining spot and began preparing his tools. However, Ulia stopped him, concerned that he must be tired. Kurt replied that he had slept a full 6 hours, which completely confused her. She couldn't understand how he had rested so well after building an entire cabin in a single day. On the other hand, Kurt misunderstood her reaction and thought she was upset because he had slept too much. After all, he had only slept 4 hours a day when he was with the S-rank adventurer party. After that, Kurt led her to the new mining spot and advised her not to dig deeper than 50 meters. Leaving her there, he returned to the previous spot where they had found the crystals to continue his work. A few hours later, Elysia successfully unearthed a football-sized topaz and was thrilled by her own success. She then went to check on Kurt, mentally prepared to see another cave, but was utterly shocked to discover that Kurt had built an entire proper mine inside the mountain. The mine even had glowing moss on its walls, eliminating the need for additional lighting. As Ulia was freaking out, Kurt casually walked in carrying a crate full of rocks. Curious, she asked him how his work had gone, silently praying he wouldn't hit her with yet another unbelievable surprise. Kurt, slightly disappointed, told her that he had only found a small amount of the mineral he was looking for, and that the rest of the rocks were just useless stone. Ulia felt mildly relieved until Kurt revealed that the useless stones were called mithril. She was completely dumbfounded. In his village, mithril was so common that people would throw it away, but Ulia felt her brain short-circuit because mithril was more valuable than platinum or diamond. Overwhelmed, she collapsed to her knees in disbelief. After gathering herself, she asked him what the other rare mineral was, and Kurt handed her a sample of orkalum. Ulia immediately recognized it as the legendary metal of the gods and asked how he had possibly found something so rare. Kurt casually explained that orkalum could be found anywhere in the world if one dug deeper than 7 kilometers. Ulia didn't even have the energy to be surprised anymore and simply asked whether he had actually dug 7 kilometers and returned in the time it had taken her to mine a single gem. At that moment, golden rays of sunlight streamed into the mine from the opposite side, and she realized that Kurt had dug a tunnel straight through the entire mountain. Even though it was a feat worthy of legend, she accepted it as a normal occurrence when it came to Kurt. Fortunately, the tunnel could now serve as a shortcut between the village and the nearby city, drastically reducing travel time. Ulia decided to charge licensed merchants a maintenance fee to use the tunnel, which would be more than enough to cover all her taxes and expenses. A couple of days later, Kurt went to the city and ran into Bandana, one of the members of his old party. Overjoyed, he asked if the others were with her. However, Bandana revealed that she had left the party after Kurt was expelled. She explained that the party had been struggling ever since. Things took a turn for the worse when their leader threw a tantrum because he disliked the food at the most renowned restaurant in the city. He trashed the place and left without paying, prompting the guards to hunt him down. Knowing the situation was doomed, the leader ordered Bandana to bring Kurt back so he could cook for them. Bandana pretended to agree and took Kurt's teleportation stone under that pretense. However, she knew the leader would soon be arrested, and with their healer being summoned by the church, there was no reason for her to return. She didn't share any of this with Kurt, and simply told him that she had been fired as well. This upset Kurt, reinforcing his belief that someone like him could never belong in that party again. He admitted that he had always looked up to the party leader, which made Bandana scoff, as she knew secrets about him that no other member did. Wanting to change the subject, she told Kurt that she was now a freelancer just like him, and suggested they help each other out. Bandana explained that one of her friends, a renowned 8th tier maester and one of the 15 master craftsmen of the kingdom, urgently needed help. She asked Kurt to assist, and he couldn't bring himself to refuse. Following the directions on the map she gave him, Kurt arrived at the master craftsman's workshop and was greeted at the door by a cute elf. At first, he assumed she was the maester herself, but she introduced herself as Michelle, the assistant. Michelle cheerfully led him inside as he explained that Bandana had sent him. However, the moment Kurt stepped inside, he regretted his decision. The place reeked worse than any bachelor pad he had ever encountered and was in complete disarray. Michelle casually told him that she needed his help cleaning the place. Kurt quickly realized he had been called in for chores rather than real crafting work. Just then, Michelle was summoned to the workshop, leaving Kurt alone with the mess. Not one to back down, Kurt pulled out his cleaning supplies and in just 30 minutes transformed the filthy kitchen into a spotless haven. Curious, he followed the hallway and knocked on a door. A voice told him to enter, and he did, only to find a girl undressing inside. Mortified, Kurt tried to avert his eyes, but the girl didn't mind at all and calmly greeted him. He noticed a curse mark on her stomach and, worried, asked for permission to examine it. Sensing that she was in poor condition but still healthy enough to feel hunger, he decided to prepare something light for her to eat. Meanwhile, Ulia had taken the mithril and orkalum to her friend Mimiko, who appraised their combined value at over 50,000 gold coins. Both women were stunned by the sheer worth, and Mimiko wondered how someone like Kurt could have remained unknown for so long. Ulia admitted she didn't know either, but revealed her plan to make Kurt a maester and become his personal bodyguard. The biggest challenge, however, was that Kurt severely underestimated himself. Back at the workshop, Kurt finished preparing a light porridge for the cursed girl. Just as Michelle returned to the kitchen with her master, Alia, both were shocked to find the kitchen spotless. Kurt quickly apologized for using Alia's kitchen without permission and explained that he had prepared food for the cursed girl. Alia made him swear not to tell anyone about her existence. After paying Kurt for the day, she sent him away, though she felt uneasy about letting an outsider meet someone so important. Afterward, Alia returned to the girl's room and helped her only student, Liz, get dressed. Alia insisted on testing the food for poison, but Liz refused, saying she trusted Kurt. Reluctantly, Alia agreed, and Liz ate the porridge. She praised its taste but suddenly groaned in pain and collapsed. Panicked, Alia believed she had made a terrible mistake. As Alia rushed to retrieve an antidote, Liz suddenly stood up and announced that the curse had been lifted. She showed Alia that the mark on her body had completely vanished. Alia was stunned. She, a master craftsman, had been unable to lift the curse. Yet Kurt had done so through food alone. Without wasting time, Alia brought Liz to Mimiko's shop in the capital. When Mimiko asked why they had come, Liz revealed her face, causing both Mimiko and Ulia to immediately fall to their knees. Liz was none other than the third princess of the kingdom. Alia explained that Liz's mother came from a neighboring country, and that Liz herself was the sole reason peace was maintained between the two nations. Liz had been cursed in an attempt to incite war, but that curse had now been broken. Alia asked Mimiko to help investigate who had cast it, but Mimiko was far more interested in how the curse had been lifted. Liz smiled and revealed the name of the man responsible, Kurt. At that, both Mimiko and Ulia freaked out once again. Somehow, Kurt had managed to involve himself in yet another world-shaking incident. Liz explained that the curse had disappeared after she ate the porridge Kurt had prepared. Ulia was left utterly stunned, wondering just how many impossible feats Kurt had accomplished in the mere 6 hours she had been away.